the timing of this is significant. It does a number of things simultaneously. First, Trump in the Trump campaign raises its profile as being sort of tough on Iran and being on Iran's hit list. It risks isolating Iran even further on the international stage at a time when we saw yesterday Iranian President Pezeshkian speak at the UN General Assembly about his intentions as a newish president to re-engage with the West, to start negotiations, to lift sanctions, and in a way to sort of reset the relationship. These were conciliatory but contradictory statements, certainly, but the extent to which it's in Iran's interest at this current moment to implement an assassination operation against an American presidential candidate weeks out from the election, I think is highly questionable.
Now, look, Israel's military has said this morning that it is carrying out a new wave of extensive strikes in Lebanon. At least 10 people have been killed, according to Lebanon's health ministry. It comes after Israel said it had intercepted a ballistic missile fired by Hezbollah towards Tel Aviv. I'm joined now by Dr Burcu Ozcelik, a senior research fellow for Middle East security at the defense and think tank RUSI. Hello, Burcu. How significant was it that Hezbollah fired a missile towards Tel Aviv?
Hi, good afternoon, and thanks for having me on. It is significant, although the intelligence and open source reporting thus far suggests that it did not have the impact that Hezbollah would have desired. The majority of the rockets being launched into Israel, into the north of Israel, as well as farther deeper into the country, in the Haifa area and Tel Aviv. These have had limited impact and have been intercepted, according to Israeli sources.
Okay, and look, Israel's own airstrikes, which have been obviously somewhat larger. What's Israel hoping to achieve with them, and how will Israel know when it has achieved them?
This is exactly the right question. Israel has achieved a series of quite considerable and impressive intelligence capability wins and tactical wins over the past week. But when we look at the wider picture, what is the strategic objectives? Is there a strategic coherence to what Israel is trying to implement at the moment? That seems less clear. There are certain military objectives that have certainly been publicly declared by the Israeli forces, such as mainly at the moment creating the conditions in northern Israel for the over 60,000 civilians to return to their homes. For a long time now, since the horrific attacks of 7th of October, the Israeli establishment has been saying that this is unsustainable, that Israeli civilians need to be able to return home. That said, there have been many displaced on the Lebanese side of the border as well. So the more limited aim at the moment is for Hezbollah commanders, fighters, to withdraw further north into inside Lebanon beyond the Litani River. And this is consistent with UN Resolution 1701, which was agreed in 2006. Hezbollah is not yet willing to concede to those terms.
What do you foresee happening in the coming well, I was going to say days, but I think weeks is more likely. I mean, do you see this this conflict intensifying, or do you see there being some backing down on either side?
It's very much a very fragile, precarious situation, as you can imagine. A lot depends on the next steps that Hezbollah will take. Their capabilities, military capabilities, communication infrastructure have been significantly degraded over the past week. And so whether they are at breaking point and the types of concessions they're willing to make, I think will be key to what happens next. The big question is, will Israel, of course, go into Lebanon? Will there be a ground invasion to create this buffer zone that has long been talked about that would create the conditions for the Israeli civilians to return?
Sure.
If the aerial campaign against Hezbollah targets and Israeli officials claim that Hezbollah has hidden weapons, lethal weapons, missiles, rocket launchers inside civilian infrastructure in the south of Lebanon, and that is the reason for the bombing campaign at the moment. If there is a sufficient level of success militarily from the Israeli point of view, I think the ground incursion is less desirable because
Mm.
that will lead to a significant escalation and possibly harm and injury on the Israeli side as well.
Sure, understood. And look, finally, Dr. Ozcelik, Donald Trump's campaign says he's been briefed by US intelligence about threats from Iran to assassinate him. Does that sound plausible or in Iran's interests?
Well, obviously, I don't have the intelligence on this to comment more competently, but in terms of the geopolitical context, the timing of this is significant. It does a number of things simultaneously. First, Trump and the Trump campaign raises its profile as being sort of tough on Iran and being on Iran's hit list. It risks isolating Iran even further on the international stage at a time when we saw yesterday Iranian President Pezeshkian speak at the UN General Assembly about his intentions as a newish president to re-engage with the
Mm.
West, to start negotiations, to lift sanctions, and in a way to sort of reset the relationship. These were conciliatory but contradictory statements, certainly, but the extent to which it's in Iran's interest at this current moment to implement an assassination operation
Mm.
against an American presidential candidate weeks out from the election, I think is highly questionable.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Burcu Ozcelik from the think tank RUSI.